The Dr. J Vlog Series. It's Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. And we're dealing with the theme of cruelty this week from the different angles that are covered by each of the daily themes. And so today, Tuesdays that is, are devoted to music and the arts. And so in today's vlog, I'm going to be briefly looking at the life and the work of one Fredricka, or as she was known, Friedl Dicker-Brandeis. She was an artist teacher who used art to provide hope and to foster resilience within the children in the Terezin concentration camp in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust. And at the same time, she advocated for arts education throughout her life. So Friedel Dicker was born in Vienna in 1898 to a poor Jewish family. She lost her mother at the tender age of 4 and thereafter was raised by her father. She displayed an early aptitude for art and was a student of Johannes Itten at his private school in Vienna. So Itten was an expressionist painter, designer, and teacher. And so Dicker followed him and studied in turn at the Bauhaus. This is a German art school that combined crafts and the fine arts. And so she studied there from 1919 to 1923. And among others, she was then perhaps most strongly influenced by her teacher Paul Klee, who addressed the matter of things and their appearances as well beyond their appearances. So in his 1923 essay, The Play of Forces in the Bauhaus, Klee discussed how the careful study of the appearances of things had resulted in, quote, excellent pictures of the surface of objects, while the art of contemplating and envisaging non-optical impressions and conceptions was neglected, end quote. And so Klee stressed that, after all, artists are more complex than cameras, for example, and thus urged his students to, quote, sense the total nature of things by entering the conception of the natural object, be this object plant, animal, or human being. The object grows beyond its appearance through our knowledge of its inner nature. Again, that's a direct quote from Klee, or his essay. In effect, then, the artist ideally should be completely immersed in the reality of the entity being depicted, again, through whatever art form, almost like a radical form of empathy, if you will. The artist needs to travel to the inside of the entity, to the core, in order to represent more clearly the external appearances. Friedel Dicker, who then became Dicker-Brandeis after her 1936 marriage to Pavel Brandeis, carried forward such thinking in developing her own artistic and pedagogical principles. Under the Nazi regime, Dicker-Brandeis was arrested then and eventually deported to Terezin in 1942, where she began teaching art to the children there. Some 15,000 children under the age of 15 entered the gates of that so-called model camp, Terezin. And Hitler described this as his gift, quote unquote, his gift to the Jews. Now, it's widely understood, though, that Terezin was created basically to fool outsiders into thinking that the Jews were being treated much more humanely than they were. And the reality, of course, was quite different. Terezin was still, in the end, a concentration camp for Jews, and still a horrific sight of suffering and cruelty. It's estimated that over 140,000 individuals passed through Terezin, and that approximately 35,000 actually died there, as opposed to other concentration camps or after they were transported elsewhere. Equally important was the fact that the children were always separated from their parents and then faced extreme suffering and cruelty, with then art and music being permitted as a form of expression. So this is quite interesting because the Nazis, as you're probably aware, did everything they could to suppress artistic expression, or what they destroyed so much, quote unquote, degenerate art under their regime. But as it turns out, in this particular instance, at least in Terezin, most of the adults then who entered the camp were also themselves artists and scholars and that sort of thing. And so culture kind of flourished within this ghetto-like setting amidst the starvation and the death and disease and so on. And after dark, then the adults, including Friedl, encouraged the children then to draw and to write to moderate the chaos that surrounded them. This was actually quite remarkable. And art then served as a vital means then of expressing hope for the children, again, as they were living under these incredibly harsh conditions at the Terezin concentration camp. So Friedl then taught drawing, painting, and collage at Terezin. And she did her best then to foster creativity and even hope, despite, again, the incredibly harsh conditions and the limited resources. She created then a nurturing environment that allowed the children to express their fears and their dreams through the art. And you could make the case then that this was even an early form of what today we would describe as art therapy. So Friedl Dicker-Brandeis's teaching approach then combined structure with freedom, allowing children to explore their creativity while at the same time providing a sense of safety. She emphasized collaboration and resource sharing among students, again reflecting her previous Bauhaus training. Friedl's teaching was characterized by a balance of discipline and acceptance of the children's inner lives. The kids' artwork then reflect the themes of memory, fantasy, everyday reality, and fears, showcasing the children's emotional responses to these incredible circumstances. And so children then used art to create something unique from their unique experiences and emotions. And the art experts have concluded then that their drawings serve as a testament to the youthful spirit, the enduring power of creativity, and their even defiance in the face of death. So these innocent and honest depictions now allow us, more than 8 decades later, to see through the eyes of the child what life was like in Terezin. So this to me is just an incredible avenue, an incredible opening, if you will. Through these artistic expressions, then, their voices speak to us across the chasm of time to remind us, then, of one of the greatest crimes against humanity in all of human history. We are fortunate, then, all these years later, that roughly 4,000 drawings by her students were saved and are now preserved as part of the historical record. The collection of works are available, such as I Never Saw Another Butterfly, that highlight these children's their creativity and their resilience. And so this would be Friedl's greatest legacy, encapsulated in the art that was produced, which highlights the struggle between hope and despair amidst tyranny. So despite the fear and the trauma, there's also joy in the creation of art, providing a temporary escape, solace, if you will. And the artworks capture the memories and the emotions, reawakening that hunger for life. So Dicker-Brandeis's influence is evident then through the emotional depth of these children's work. The drawings then of Terezin are a significant historical artifact that document the experiences of the children during the Holocaust. And they provide, again, this incredible insight into the emotional and psychological states of these young artists, most of whom also died, by the way, did not survive the war, did not survive the concentration camps. And so, again, these artworks then serve as a poignant reminder of the innocence lost during the Holocaust. They are widely published and studied these days and contribute now to the Holocaust education in general and the remembrance efforts that continue. The drawings continue to resonate all these years later, reminding us yet again of the resiliency of the human spirit, especially in the face of unimaginable cruelty and adversity. As I mentioned, tragically, most of these young artists, including their teacher, Friedl Dicker-Brandeis, did not survive the Holocaust. She herself died on October 9th, 1944. But the impact of her teaching continues to resonate in discussions, especially about art and trauma, and as mentioned, has influenced the development of modern forms of art therapy. So Friedl's life and contributions also continue to be commemorated through exhibitions and various scholarly works. Indeed, she herself also produced a significant body of artwork while teaching and demonstrating yet again her commitment to both her art and her students. Okay, so that's my brief discussion, maybe introduction for some of you, with respect to Friedl Dicker-Brandeis, just one of the many heroic figures who did her best to cope and to help countless numbers of children to cope with the cruelty and the degradation and the war crimes perpetrated by the Nazis. All right, so be sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much. And in the meantime, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, and dole out hugs in abundance. And I hope to see you tomorrow.